You changed your coat. I love that. You know, it's been right at the end, which is where we wanted to go. Yeah. And then they put them in. And they're actually supposed to be like over
I did
there.
notice that. Are we standing or sitting?
No, no, sit down.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good.
Get through the metamorphosis here, all right?
It's been going well.
Is it?
Yeah, we put a lot of work into it.
Well, I bet.
How are you doing?
You know, Glenn, everybody should get to be me for a week. My life is so good. It's unbelievable.
I like that. I have one 3 months ago.
Where,
They live in Midland. Oh, Holman, which is nice. Yeah, sure. Yeah. My son just got his passport. This now.
Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, because that's where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference. And of course, what's one of the things you're always talking about when you talk about business in Michigan and Detroit is the automotive industry, mobility industry. I'm sorry. Glenn Stevens joins us right now, head of Mich Auto. How you doing, bud?
Good. I'm good. It's good to be with you guys this morning.
Well, and this is a great place to be, isn't it? I
It
mean,
is. There's a lot going on
yeah, and you move in and out of meetings all day. I mean,
all day. Yeah,
we watch you walk past. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on.
there is relevant, impactful conversations.
Yeah.
Some you see out in front, some behind closed doors, but it's all intended to move Michigan forward, and I think that's what's happening.
Well, and the people that otherwise might take you a year to get out and reach are all here.
Well, that is true. I mean, I just had a text from somebody wants to meet in a little bit here that I've been having a hard time getting together with back in Detroit,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't think that is, but that's why this is a beautiful thing, is they're all here,
No, there's
one
no
place.
doubt about it. You got to come here. You guys have gone through what do I call it? A suit change, right?
A bit.
A little bit of rebranding, etc.
We did re-energizing the brand. We took a step back with a third party partner with Franco Public Relations and did a really deep dive on, are we doing the right things? Do our investors and supporters and stakeholders and partners believe in our work, and what do they want us to do more of?
Hmm.
So pretty exhaustive process to do that, and it included a new logo for the future, but it also was a double and triple down on promoting, retaining, and growing our automotive and mobility industry as the only voice that does that in Michigan.
Well, this is it's interesting when you kind of rebrand because a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons, which is to just look a little different.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like growth for growth's sake.
Right.
It just doesn't work out. I'm glad to hear there was a ton of research behind
Yeah,
this.
ours was a gut check.
Yeah.
The industry today is vastly different than when Mishado was founded
Yep.
in 2007. So therefore, you have to say, is our roadmap right? Are we responding to the needs of the industry? And are we helping lead the transition that we're in the middle of too? And frankly, that is what we're doing. We're going to double and triple down that even more on a statewide basis.
So interestingly enough, yeah, with the change of the automotive industry, mobility industry, if you will. So what are the current challenges that are out there?
Well, I think the two big ones um, are continue to be our talent. And I know that everybody says that all the time, but really, every economy, every job, every industry is moving more and more digital. That's from the factory floor with automation and the interfaces it has to the connected car to the cloud. So we need more tech talent across the board, across the state in our industries and automotive. The second one is the competitive forces have never been stronger, and there are many of them. And China and the EV transition is a very, very big deal. And making people understand that what we're dealing with here is very different than anything we've ever dealt with before. And so those are the two big challenges, and that's what we're rising up to meet.
It's kind of interesting because there was a time not that long ago that we went over to China with our manufacturing facilities and kind of partnered to capture that market. This looks like the response of this is our market. We're going to capture it.
That's a good way to look at it. And from your travels and your interactions, you understand the people, the mentality of that country. But the fact of the matter is we do have a lot of our companies that do business in China, so that market is very important to them. But the Chinese market, I mean, look, they build 40 million vehicles. That's over three times what we do in North America. And there's 10 million units of excess capacity in China, and they have cornered the market on EVs. It's a long, complicated history, but the fact is they did it, and now they're going global with that. So if we're not aware of what that impact is on Michigan and on our national security and on our economic security, then we're flying blind, and we're not going to let that happen.
So, Glenn, let me ask you because one of the things holding back EV from going 100% is infrastructure,
Oh, absolutely,
right?
that's a challenge.
So, is China in a good infrastructure
Well,
state?
they I mean, it's a very, as you know, it's a very planned economy. It's not a market economy. And their ability to literally put buildings up, put infrastructure, put roads in place literally overnight
Right.
is unsurpassed globally. But when you look at our country, and if we bring it back to Michigan, we have to have less regulation, we have to have less control, and we have to improve the permitting process for mining, for putting in transmission lines. So we have to move quicker. And so infrastructure is a huge enabler, but right now it's really prohibiting the EV market in a lot of ways from growing. There are other factors, but that's one of them.
So the EV market is still moving forward. There is still a market demand for it. We just can't kind of meet all of its needs.
It's not moving forward as fast as people anticipated. This is a huge issue right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of pullback, and it's not just in Michigan, it's across the board. So I think that we're going to have to work together and understand, is it happening? Yes. It's just going to be a much slower adoption than anyone I think really realized.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. Well, listen, I'd love to have you on, buddy. I wish we had an hour, honestly.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I appreciate having the opportunity with you and your team.
Well, we really appreciate what you guys in Mish Auto are doing for the state of Michigan. So thanks. Glenn Stevens, the CEO of Mish Auto. I'm Chris Holman, and as you know, we're coming to you from this is maybe the grandest of grand hotels, right, on Mackinac Island. And we're here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy meeting. And we are going to be right back on the Michigan Business Beat, which comes to you on the Michigan Business Network. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we are coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island because that's where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce always has their annual policy conference. And what policy is more important than the monetary policy, right? So we have T. T. Rand Painter is here, and he is the executive director of the Michigan Bankers Association. How you doing?
I'm good, Chris. Thanks so much for having me. It's always great to sit down with you for a few minutes at this
Well,
conference.
it's great to have you here, and I always like a positive answer to this question. There's still money, right?
There is.
Oh,
There's lots of money, Chris.
y-
Most of it's in your pocket.
it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I know. I've had bankers money in my but it's interesting because I have a little insight. I served on bank boards for about
Sure.
25 years, and it is a fascinating industry when you realize that what they're trading in, their commodity, is money.
Right.
And it's a whole different perspective,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. How's the industry?
I think the industry is strong.
Good.
Yes, it's strong and vibrant in Michigan. Um, Certainly there are sectors that have of the business world that have had some challenges, but I think in the main it's strong and the banks are strong and lending money and people always want there to be more in the form of rates on their return on their
Sure.
deposits and less on the borrowing side. But that's just life and a function of how that all works.
Well, this is a thing from the banker side called net interest margin,
That's
and
right.
you really have to make money to stay in business.
Well, you do.
Yeah.
You have costs that it's not that
Yeah.
running a business is not free, and a bank is a business,
Well,
just like your business. There's costs
it's so
involved.
funny you say that because there are a lot of people that don't look at it that way, and then
Well,
then you tie it to the Federal Reserve, and they're sure that
well,
that's where the money comes from.
that's right.
You know.
Well, a bank, especially when you're looking at a community bank, is a business just like any other business in the community, and it's as strong as the community that it supports. So, having strong communities supporting strong banking is vital.
No. And when you look at the history of banking, countries need banking. They have to
That's,
have it to
well,
grow.
they do, and we're so fortunate in this country, even with the amount of consolidation that we've had and that we continue to have, that we have a vibrant banking system with large banks, small banks, banks of all sizes serving their communities with with boards of directors who are business people in the community who also add to the pulse, and then that we have regulatory bodies um, who ensure that we have a safe and sound banking world and with whom bankers can communicate with. That's not the case in every country.
Yeah.
And, when you think about some of the challenges that are going on in the world, sometimes we take for granted the things that we have. And there's a lot of positivity.
We certainly do.
There's a lot of positivity there.
I would encourage everybody to travel. If you think we got problems here, travel.
Indeed,
And we
indeed,
find out how euphoric we have it.
indeed.
So, enough of the history lesson of banking and its necessity. Let's talk about these days. And you mentioned consolidation because we have probably, what, one third the number of banks we had 40 years ago?
That's about right. That's
Yeah,
about right. We have 76 bank charters in the state of Michigan, about 112 banks doing business in the
yeah,
state.
yeah.
So,
Well, a lot of that is consolidation for efficiency. You
right.
centralize operations, things
Absolutely.
like that. But what I've seen in the past is it spawns community banks to come up or smaller banks to come up to fill that void.
That was traditionally the
Yeah.
case. Yes. If you bought my bank in whatever town in Michigan, um, then typically a group of business people would get together within a year and say, you know, Holman Bank and Trust is now our bank, and we'd like to have our own bank here in our town.
Yeah.
And they would form a board of directors, raise money, and get that done. Today, the cost is much greater, probably 25, $30 million to start a bank. Um, and the regulations are just um, much more onerous than they were. I know, yeah, as they are in so many things.
Oh, it's
And
true.
so um, people hesitate. So, and that's, we've had two de novo or new banks in our state in the last 5 years, which is wonderful, more than in many states. But when you look at the consolidation over I'm about to start my 10th year here. I'm going to guesstimate 20 to 25 banks that have been acquired. You know, 30 years ago, there would have been at least 15 new banks out of that.
Yeah.
You would have had a net loss of 10, but not a net loss of 23, so to speak.
Well, listen, I could talk to you all day about this. I
Yes,
honestly
sir.
could. We got about 30 seconds left. Federal Reserve, you got a crystal ball on that one?
Oh, if I did, I would be sitting here with you. I'd be out on my yacht here in the harbor. I don't, I think interest rates, I think they'll be slow to move. Yeah, I think they'll be slow to move.
I agree with you.
But I'm not an economist. That's just, let me hit some of my disclaimer. That's just,
So don't call you at home.
don't call me at
Don't-
home. Don't call me at home. You
T-Ran,
can call me at home anytime.
I
Thank you
can.
so much.
Thank you very much. T-Ran Painter, the Executive Director of the Michigan Bankers Association. And thanks so much for being with us, buddy. Keep it
Thank you
going.
so much. We appreciate it, Chris.
And remember, the money is there. Go get it.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Chris Holman, of course, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel, which is where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference. We'll be right back. You can view the Michigan Business Network right here. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And we are here because this is the week that the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference, and a lot of things go on here. And one of the things we talk a lot about is talent. It's about youth. It's about education because we know there who is going to be running things tomorrow. So we have Roger Curtis with us right now. He's executive director of Youth Solutions. And Roger, welcome. It's always good to have you on.
Thanks. It's so good to be here. I just saw you at the Michigan Celebrate Small Business. Loved it. What an amazing event. So it's great to be with you. And I'm sorry that was your last one, but
Yeah,
I know it's
well,
a little bittersweet.
20 years is,
Right.
I mean, it's a good run. And
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the first paycheck, so you know what I mean. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about Youth Solutions. What is it? What do you do?
We're really at the crossroads of education and workforce development. Most people, Chris, know us for jobs for Michigan's graduates. That's how we got started. That is a national organization, Jobs for America's Graduates. It's about 50 years old. Got started by the governor of Delaware,
Oh,
Mr. DuPont, and Bob Dole. And so it's been around. It's in 39 states in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Came to Michigan about 15 years ago. And again, we took the Jobs for America's Graduates, made it Jobs for Michigan's Graduates. Since then, we've morphed into a whole set of services for youth to help them get through their education, get ready for post-secondary pathways, more education, and then a successful career. Jobs for Michigan's graduates, again, that's kind of how we were founded and what most people know us by. What we do there, Chris, is we go in and we find and work with the schools, the most at-risk youth. They could be in school, so those that are struggling to graduate, that are still in high school. It could be those that have aged out or dropped out up to age 25. So we work with the out-of-school youth as well.
mhm.
And we get them ready to get their GED or to graduate and again, get ready for that post-secondary step, whatever it is. For 15 years, we've had 98% success rate.
Wow,
Yeah,
no joke.
no joke. 98%. It's a very successful, proven model. We go in, we train specialists. Those specialists help the youth. They work with the educators. 54% go on to post-secondary education. And just to put that in perspective, so 80% of our youth are disadvantaged. 57% are minority. They average 8 barriers. And 54% of them go on to post-secondary education. That's also the state average for
Wow,
all youth.
wow.
So I'm really proud of what our team does and our specialists out in the field.
Well, and like I've always said, those people in that disadvantaged sector, we're going to pay for them one way or another.
That's
And
right.
it's either in salaries or it's in subsidizing their
That's right.
being on Earth. So this from a business standpoint, this is a great proposition. There's an ROI here.
There's a huge proposition. There's a huge ROI. I think one of the things I'm struggling with is I just started as executive director about 9 months ago. Hasn't even been a year.
No
No
joke.
joke.
You're
I was.
still in gestation.
I am. I am. I'm still waiting on my first check too. No,
Right?
just kidding. No, it's a great group. I got to know him when I was the director of talent and economic development, which is now Leo.
Right.
So we're brothers, Leo and Ted. So very close, but
Well, sure. It's talent.
that's talent. We got to know Youth Solutions then. We helped fund them. Then when I left the state, Governor Snyder, I went on the board of directors for Youth Solutions, and then this opportunity to be the executive director came up. But back to your proposition, you're right. I think a lot of people misunderstand and think that we're just in the education world, but we're in the talent development world. We're filling that talent pipeline because if the youth can't get out of high school with a degree, that's the first issue.
Yeah.
Secondly, we focus on those critical skills, those soft skills, essential skills. So also critical thinking, leadership, problem solving. We put our youth through the ringer and really get them ready for that next step so they are successful. 75% of our youth are potential first generation college students. So to go on and be successful and then
That's
this is the
breaking
talent
that
pipeline.
chain. That is
That's
breaking the
right.
chain. You know what I mean? That's a dangerous cycle that we've allowed to exist for a long time.
It is.
And it's just yeah, you're absolutely right. And when you look at the problem, the other problem we have here is we're losing population.
That's right.
So who funds tomorrow's workforce with people? We've got to have everybody on.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs skin in the game. A lot of our, specifically for youth solutions, a lot of our appropriation comes from the state. We're very grateful for that. Leo, workforce, talent, talent support there. So, but the philanthropic community, the business community, those that need that raw material. I hate to call talent raw material, but those that need it,
Yeah.
I think they should have some skin in the game as well. And all of us need to be. The biggest issue, I think, Chris, is this needs to be coordinated. These ad hoc solutions, one off here, one off there, that's not going to move the needle. So how's this get coordinated? Who coordinates it?
Roger, I'm going to help you with that, and I'll tell you why. Because Michigan Celebrates Small Business was never formed because we wanted to have a celebration. It was formed because I wanted 5 groups to talk to each other.
Yeah,
So there's ways to do that,
there is.
and
There is.
we'll chat.
All
That'll be
right.
great. All
I
right,
love it.
Roger Curtis, so much you've done for the state of Michigan, and I appreciate you being back here.
Thanks for having me and thanks for being here and supporting all these businesses and everything going on in Michigan.
There's
Appreciate
a
it.
lot of great stuff going on.
Yeah, there
Here.
is.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Roger Curtis, head of Youth Solutions. We are coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce is holding its annual policy conference. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel, which is where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce holds their annual policy conference. And who's more in the middle of policy than small business, right? So we have Brian Kelly here. He's the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan. Good to have you here, Brian. How you doing?
Great to be with you. Yeah, thank you very much. Couldn't be better on I was a day like today, the weather that we've had in the islands. I've been coming here since 2007, and I don't remember
No.
weather as good as this. Chris, I love this. I love running and this like kind of crisp morning,
Yep.
no
Nice.
humidity.
Uh,
Perfect.
and sunny,
And
but
sunny.
cool.
Yes,
So when you walk up that hill, you're not a sweat ball when you get up here.
that's right.
That's the other thing,
It's
right?
beautiful.
All right. So a lot of policy work going on here, and this is Christmas for all of us who want to affect policy or at least get feedback on it. What are the issues in small business right now? What are you going to be working on?
Well, there's so many different needs, but there's a lot of defense these days. So I'd start there. There's two areas where over the last year and a half or so, we've really been trying to not lose ground. First is independent contractors. So solopreneurs, it's a truly an outlier in Michigan small business growth in the last 20 years, according to our scorecard. The rise of the solopreneur, the rise of just a self-employed person, and they have higher income than the national average of self-employed people here in Michigan. It's a great thing. Don't squash that by limiting independent contractor rules. The other thing is small businesses compete for talent based on flexibility, being able to offer flexible hours, flexible working conditions, and allowing people to fit their life into their or fit their work into their life instead of fitting their life into their work. That's it's a really important part of competing for talent, and so we try to keep the government out from in between the employer-employee relationship.
Hmm.
That the more that that's rigid and has to be done in a very specific way, the less flexibility plays into the hands of larger operations that are very uniform and maybe can offer a little enhanced benefit or a little enhanced pay, but less flexibility. Smaller businesses that are giving a little more authority, a little more experience, a little more flexibility, and so those are two things that a lot of the folks that think they're helping by passing laws to, more laws and creating more rules. But to the entrepreneur, it's just adding one more thing and 500 other things that they have to do.
Well, and it's been an unfair competitive advantage for bigger business for talent anyway. Along with they can pay more, there's more benefits, et cetera, et cetera. To take away the few things that give us tools to make it attractive to work for small business is really a huge step backwards.
It is, especially when you consider the perfect storm of our population
Shortage of
concerns
people.
here. Yeah, we just don't have enough people. So when we stack on top of that an already difficult competitive situation, make it a little bit harder. It's really the reason why we do on these policy issues. We focus so much on trying to maintain flexibility in the employer-employee relationship, so that it can be tailored to the needs of the employee and the employer. That helps small businesses a lot. Oftentimes we like when we ask our members like what do you need, the most common or popular answer is stay out of my way.
Yeah. And it has been since 1776, I think.
Yes,
Right?
yeah, right,
Regulation has always been in the top five things
right.
that business finds as an encumbrance. I know that you guys survey your membership a lot. We do our semi-annual, which by the way, the Michigan Future Business Index is in the field now.
Great.
So go online, fill that out because it's valuable information. But talent has been there the last now 4.5 years. And I'm wondering, I know that you are also a member, SBAM is, of the national. What are we doing with immigration reform? Is there anything happening there?
Immigration reform has been like this seemingly unattainable goal over years, and it's most unfortunate because, like here in Michigan, where we've had refugees coming into Michigan and immigration coming into Michigan over decades, and it's a huge part of the small business community, and a huge benefit. But last year, so our population grew last year. If you take immigration and refugees out of that mix, we would have shrunk.
Yeah,
Like the only reason we grew is because we had immigration. So, but it gets mixed up in Washington. They mix it up with border security, and that's a different thing.
it is.
So, and so when they mix it all up, it gets tangled. Becomes political. But immigration policy, the idea that we need to attract and invite in the best talent from around the world is so important. It's really the key. If you're to look to our north, by the way, what a great example. Look to Toronto, um, and what Canada has done, like in the U.S., where we people get educated here, and then like we make them leave.
Yeah,
And Canada's immigration policy has changed to is to say, hey, U.S. graduates, you want to stay in North America? So look at the way that province has grown in
yeah,
Canada. It rivals our highest growth states like Florida and in Texas over the last 5 years.
yeah.
Uh, in the especially in the Toronto area, but that whole Canadian province is on the other side of the Detroit River has really had impressive growth.
It's crazy stuff. I wish we had ours. We're out of time, unfortunately, but thanks for the good work you do on behalf of small business. We appreciate it.
Likewise, Chris.
All
Thanks.
right, buddy. Good to talk to you. Brian Callow, the CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan, joins me here at the Grand Hotel, and that's because the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce is having their annual policy conference here. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. We'll be back with more. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, and that's because that's where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference, and we're very fortunate to have with us, I would say, a good friend and also the CEO of the Edward Lowe Foundation, Dan Wyatt. Dan, it's good to, I when I sit here with you, I think I have known you through, I think, 3 or 4 different
Yeah,
occupations.
yeah,
You jump in and out to help government.
yeah. You could say I can't keep a job, but Chris, Chris, you are a good friend. I appreciate being with you. Yeah, I've had a, you know, the, I like to tell people you can remake yourself. So, as you know, I was the agriculture director in Michigan for 10 years under one governor and then director of the DEQ and now small business. So, been very fortunate. And through the years, I've gotten to know you and get the opportunity to come here to Mackinac.
Well, and it's a great place to be. I mean, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Edward Lowe Foundation because you guys should be way better known than you are.
Yeah, there is that. We're one of the best kept secrets. Edward Lowe invented kitty litter and tidy cat. He was an entrepreneur's entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He left a wonderful legacy. He left his estate to support entrepreneurs. And then we've carved out a niche in that space, second stage. And so we work with entrepreneurs, business owners, 10 to 99 employees, a million to 50 million in sales with the intention to grow. And with your help, 20 years now, we've had a Michigan Companies to Watch program where we've recognized 50 best and brightest companies in Michigan in that sector.
Well, and you guys did that single-handedly for a lot of years, and that was a huge task.
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan's got a great model though, and you were part of that. We put together a coalition of partners that really want to support second stage growth companies. And your network, MEDC, the Small Business Association of Michigan, the SBDC, and us. It's been a tremendous partnership.
Yeah, and SBA has been in there. I mean, they were there in the
Yeah.
initial meeting. They're burdened with a few more regulations than the rest of us, right? All right. So what is the Edward Lowe Foundation afford? Because it's a great place for
Yeah,
entrepreneurs.
thanks for the opportunity to talk about it. We provide programs, not grants, and so we're proud of that. So there's 7 programs at the foundation: recognition, 50 companies, leadership retreats, peer-to-peer learning, roundtables. We do a mentorship program. We have strategic information. So you throw all that together, we try to touch entrepreneurs over their journey up the mountain, we call it, and we want to see them at the summit someday. And so we've gotten pretty good of touching these entrepreneurs and providing services that they need.
Well, and I got to say, the space you picked, which is second tier, that's the fastest growth stage.
Yeah, this is a story that we need to talk about. We need to differentiate entrepreneurship, and it's all good. Startups are important, but a lot of people think of entrepreneurship as startup work. 10 to 99, a million to 50 million in sales is 17% of companies in Michigan, but 41% of jobs.
Yeah.
That's job creation. And we intuitively know this. We know that's innovation. We know that's where jobs are coming from. But more recently, we've been able to measure that and tell that story better. And it's pretty powerful to try to tailor then programs to that niche.
Yeah. So listen, let me ask a personal question. How's your mother?
Oh, she's great.
Is she?
Edward Lowe passed away in 1995. Darlene Lowe, my mother, Ed was my stepfather, 88 years old. On
Unbelievable.
the board and still a
I
passion, still passionate about this mission. And I'm just impressed that they've left this legacy. And not only, as you've been there, is not only the programs in the sector, but we have a beautiful piece of property in Southwest Michigan.
No, and was where I was going next, because this isn't just about, the tutoring, the help that you give down. This is about the physical setting.
Well, it's a unique piece of property, 2,000 acres, forest land, wetlands, farmland, native prairies. You put that kind of habitat together, you get a lot of critters.
Yeah.
We do a lot of conservation work. That's a fun sideline. I have a little bit of interest in that from my former life. And so it's fun to work with all the nature groups and the conservancy groups in Michigan to sort of highlight best practices on land management.
Yeah. It's a marvelous place to go. And here's one of the noteworthy things. May have one of the best chefs
Oh,
anywhere.
yeah. Well, that, we can always get people to come back when you feed them well.
That's the truth. But even when you have turnover in that, you go to Chicago or
Yeah.
someplace and you get a great chef.
Yeah, we like to call it the wow factor.
Yeah,
We say come to the woods in Southwest Michigan. People kind of scratch their head, but
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's not only a neat piece of property, but my mother, Darlene Lowe, was an interior designer, so there's an aesthetic there. It's a pretty neat place.
And a lot of old buildings, outbuildings that have been rehabbed and are really cool places
Yeah.
where
51 structures, 13 renovated farmhouses. And so we really require you at some point
yeah.
to come to the foundation, and we put you in a house and give you space to get away from the business to work on the business.
Yeah, well, we've done some retreats up there and we've helped entrepreneurs in that facility, and it is absolutely marvelous. And you can go online, by the way. You have line
Yeah,
access,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Everlowfoundation.org.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and find out about it because it's an incredible experience. It
yeah.
really is. Dan, I love what you've done for the state of Michigan over the years, and I'm glad that we've had this friendship.
Chris, I appreciate your leadership and thank you for all you do. Thanks.
Good to have you here. Dan White, head of the Edward Lowe Foundation. And we are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce is having their annual policy conference. I'm Chris Holman, and we will be back with the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network in just a moment. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel where we're attending the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference, which brings in everybody of importance, right? So we grabbed another important right now. Mark Hackle joins us. He's the Macomb County executive, and Mark, I think I've run into you more this year than I ever have.
Yeah, Chris, always good seeing you. I love being up at this conference because you do that. You're back and forth on a carpet here in the Grand Hotel, and it's like you run into people three, four, 5 times, probably within an hour's period of time. But get some good conversations, kind of quick conversations to figure out how to resolve some things. But also, if you need to do something that's going to be more extensive, set up dates and times to do that even when we get back home.
No, it's amazing when you think of who all is here. It's like you say, you can get a lot of work done here besides just the conference and all the great speakers. So what are your issues in Macomb County right
It's interesting. We always talk about growing talent because we're trying to figure out how do we attract people to Michigan, but Macomb County is no different. 44,000 jobs available. How do we get people to want to move to Macomb County to take on these jobs is the bigger concern. Those that are graduating universities or colleges, we want to keep them in the state, but in Macomb County, we're trying to figure out how do we attract that talent. So we try to do that through our unique opportunity to reach out, obviously out of state, to get people to realize, this Make Macomb Your Home strategy we have in MacombGov.org, to get people to see what Macomb County is all about, the jobs that are available, but the quality of life, the housing opportunities, and try to see if they might want to have an interest to relocate to Macomb County. That's one of the big issues from the economic side, but from the government side, we're trying to figure out how do we deal with mental health and substance use. We're creating a new facility. We're building actually a $230 million jail that is more than a jail. And I say that because it's going to have the mental health substance use component to it, where we could treat people and deal with people 24/7 that come into that facility, that come in contact with law enforcement. That is one of the main goals that we have in Macomb County, is to try to figure out how do we impact mental health and substance use.
Well, and it cuts recidivism too, as if you've got a good facility that's really working at retraining people, mainstreaming them back in.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That's exactly what it is. When we talk about, the challenge of seeing a society, there's no question about it. People that are listening right now, you probably know someone that has a mental health or substance use problem. The question is, what do I do? How do I get something done for them? And you're seeing that hospital systems are inundated, our schools, our homes, our workplaces, but law enforcement immediately, when they closed those state institutions statewide back in the 80s, was inundated. We became kind of a new location for people that have mental health issues. And there really wasn't just community-based support that was there. So this facility that we're building, it has that component where the processing of these individuals and the community-based support people that are experts in that area are going to be embedded into the jail itself to understand these issues. But if they're not going to be staying with us because the judge says they're not a danger to society, their case is adjudicated, if they're going back into society, there's that handoff that we're going to be making with people within the community that understand how to deal with the treatment after that, so that it does try to reduce that recidivism or problems in those other areas that we may not have a direct impact on.
Well, there was a time, and you're too young to remember this, when we had a great mental health situation here in the state of Michigan, and then we tore it all down, and it's kind of been rebuilding slowly over the years, but it's a huge issue.
Yeah, and you're interesting when you say it because I was starting in policing in 1980 when I started. And when I became a deputy on the road back in 83, 84, we would actually transfer patients from the county jail that were deemed to have mental health issues or concerns to some of the state facilities around the state. And then when they closed those down in kind of the mid 80s, most of the sheriffs around the entire state of Michigan said this is going to be a challenge for us because we're going to be the new housing unit for people with mental health issues. There wasn't that support mechanism ready to handle this, but we had to figure out how to do it. So now we're finally catching up, and we're getting some national attention with this really progressive thing that we're doing in Macomb County with this new jail that is really for health and substance use.
I'll tell you what, the educational facilities up there. And that's the big key to the major problem for small business, which is talent, right?
Yes. And again, it's not just about the 4-year degree. We know that there's opportunities out there for people with the skilled trades, and that's starting to make a comeback into our schools, our actually into our high schools, where they're really making that connection, giving kids an opportunity to say, you know what, maybe I don't want to go for a 4-year degree, but there's some good paying, good opportunities as far as jobs available in the trades, skilled trades. Macomb County's ISD program, Mike DeVault, he leads that. Jim Sawyer, he's actually the president of Macomb Community College, are working together with all of our school districts here in Macomb County. And I got to tell you, that relationship has been incredible. The partnership is giving kids a better opportunity to understand if there's something in the trades they're looking for, or if they're looking for that degree opportunity starting at Macomb. They now have partnerships with all these universities
right in Macomb County through a relationship that they have at the University Center in Macomb. So again, we may not have a university in Macomb County, but we have one of the greatest 2 years institutions, and that's Macomb Community College that has partnerships with those institutions around the state.
Well, and it's the community college system that is really chipping in on this, and you've got a good one there.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate. I'm a proud graduate of Macomb Community College. Really wasn't sure I was working while I was going to school, but I come to realize the importance of Macomb Community College, and that's actually where I furthered my degree. I went to Wayne State, got a master's degree at Macomb Community College through Central Michigan, educated right there in their own backyard because of that partnership Macomb Community College has made with some of these universities. Yeah.
Well, you've done a tremendous job up there, and it's good to see you year after year. And I'll probably see you next on the set of Carol Kane's
Oh,
Michigan Man.
you bet. Looking forward to it. You do a great job, and Carol loves having you.
I work cheap. That's why. So, Mark Hackle, Chief Executive for Macomb County. We are at the policy conference put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce on Mackinac Island. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here. And we are at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, and we're here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. And we have with us right now, and this is going to be fun, Martin, because I know not too much about you. Zach Morris is the executive director of Market Van Buren.
Yeah.
So let's hear what that is.
Well, soon to be Market One. Next week, we're going to rebrand because now we're covering two counties, Van Buren and Cass County. And so we're the economic development organization for those two counties. And that includes, working with businesses and the communities to make sure we have a vibrant place where people want to live and do business.
It's kind of interesting because we were talking a little off air. You are kind of a local guy, really, and grew up in that area.
Yeah, born and raised, small town called Decatur, may have heard of it.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So I get the privilege of being able to lead economic development where I grew up. And that means when I'm traveling around, I get to make an impact with friends, family, and the places that I remember as a little kid, I can go in now and help and see them grow.
That's got to be gratifying.
Extremely. One of the things that we were talking about earlier was that a lot of people my age, when they graduated high school and college, had to leave. And I get to make an impact now to see, all right, you can stay here and find the employment and opportunities right here in Cass and Van Buren counties.
Yeah, which is really good. All right, so what are your issues? Because you deal when you're in economic development with everything from venue to infrastructure to cost of power. All those things come into play.
Well, economic development is about having strong businesses who employ talented people in vibrant communities. And let's talk about the strong businesses. We're working on that piece. But if you're going to have strong businesses, you have to have the talented people. And as we know, that's the big issue right now in the state of Michigan is we need to bring talent back into the state, but we also have to keep what we've got. So retain and gain is the two parts of it. That third thing I talked about is vibrant places. So in rural America, especially rural Michigan, our downtowns need to be refurbished. They need to be stabilized in a lot of cases. And then we need to start bringing some shops in, and then we have to have housing for the talent. All those things take a lot of effort, a lot of planning work, and of course, money. We just recently solved the internet issue in Cass and Van Buren. We're going to have over 10,000 unserved parcels going to now be served with high-speed broadband internet. One of our local providers, Midwest Energy Communications, applied for the Robin Grant. You may remember that last year. Won. And now that's no longer going to be an issue, Chris. I would have never thought in my career I could be able to say high speed internet is not an issue in my part of the country.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the big necessities, actually. It's kind of interesting. I was on the first kitchen cabinet for Governor Whitmer when she decided to run. And she said, what can I do for the business community? That was number one issue was get them broadband, get them high speed internet because a lot of businesses are excluded and so are people. So, okay, so you got that taken care of. Let's talk about placemaking because you mentioned a lot of things in town. Placemaking is huge if you're drawing talent.
Well, placemaking is, and like I talked about, our downtowns need to be brought back to life again. So that's one thing. And then housing's the other piece of it. We're short by thousands of units across the whole state of Michigan and across the whole country, frankly, this is an issue. And what we need to start addressing is how do we get more affordable housing for even people who frankly are making over $100,000 a year. They still need housing. It's not just the low income folks that need housing. It's a broad spectrum. So we know we need to start adding more units, which means we need to have more infrastructure put in place for neighborhoods. That means roads and water and sewer. You need water and sewer, Chris, because that's density.
Yeah.
By the time you put in the drain field and the septic tank and the well, what do you have left there? Not much room in the whole neighborhood. So you need more density, and that's going to be able to get more housing units in the neighborhood. So that's all part of it.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is too right now, nobody's building on spec because interest rates, election year, I hate to say that, but that always slows things down. So those are pretty good hills you got to jump over yet.
Yeah, interest rates, cost of construction, cost of labor, materials, all those things are driving the cost of housing up. We've got some new TIF laws. I think they've gone pretty far, and they help bring down that top end cost for developers. We need to go a little further. We need to make it a little bit broader. We need to go beyond the current average median income standards that we have right now in the state. We need to get it a little higher because even people with a little higher income need housing. And we have to start bringing that top end down. This is all part of bringing talent back into Michigan, right? And we want people who are able to find a house in a community they want to live in. And it's not just all going to be in cities, it's also going to be in rural America too. So we need to make rural America ready to bring talent back too.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got a little job ahead of you, but I think you're the man for the job. So
I hope so.
good for you. Zach Morris, who is the head of what is today Market Van Buren, is going to be Van Buren 1.
Market 1 next week.
Market 1.
Market
Sorry.
1 next week. If you look
There
at
you go.
the shape of the two counties, Cass and Van Buren, it's a 1 first.
Oh, there you go. I love that. That's great. Well, thanks for being with us. And you know what? Continued good luck. You're just who we need to do that.
All right,
bud.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. We are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, and we are up here because the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce is holding their annual policy conference. So you're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel. Is there a better place to come to someone from? Not really. No. We're up here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference, and grabbed out of the crowd, pre-scheduled about 60 days, Nicole Noel Williams, who's the executive director, the CEO of the Capital Region International Airport. And I emphasize international because a lot of people put that in their names, but it's not really accurate.
Right, right. It was years ago, there was some airports throughout the state of Michigan that received international service to Canada. And they became international airports tied into that service. And it was back in 2009 that Lansing actually became a port of entry status at the airport. So we truly became an international airport with services to be able to clear international passenger flights of over 19 people on an aircraft. We have the ability to clear international products with a foreign trade zone, bonded warehouse facilities, container freight stations. So we're really prepared in the center of the state to help support future growth for existing corporations or future companies that may have some interest coming into Michigan.
Well, and this is not just about Canada either.
That's right. And that's the thing. We're working with MEDC, we're working with the governor's office, we're working with our local economic partners with LEAP, and really looking at those opportunities that we can help support the services that maybe some future businesses might have some interest, not just even pulling people in from other states potentially, could be brand new businesses, or even the potential of relocating maybe some businesses from overseas.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and let's talk a little bit about cargo because people don't realize what a business cargo is.
Yeah, UPS has been a partner with the Lansing Airport. They've been flying in and out of Lansing for a long, long time. And again, that central location in the state has really been the big supporter for them. So we're a Midwest hub for them. So they've got every product in the state of Michigan that's next day outside of Metro Detroit goes in and out of the Lansing Airport. So but they also have feeder carriers that go out throughout the entire state, including the UP and neighboring states, and bringing those products in. And they also have some leased space available for Amazon. So there's other shipments and products, and then a brand new partnership with the post office. So because of some increase in the post office activity, they're actually going to be increasing activity at the Lansing Airport later this summer.
Well, and I know you personally, so I know that as soon as you get things near perfect, there's yet another project, right? So let's talk about that. What's in the future?
Yeah, we've had that opportunity since I've been back as the CEO for 3 years. We've had a lot of key projects, a lot of focused infrastructure projects that we've been able to move forward with. But the thing is, we wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for our great partners. On the federal side, from Senator Stabenow, Senator Peters, Representative Slotkins, as well as Senator Anthony and Rep. Whitwer. Both of them have been really key, as well as the support from the governor and economic development opportunities that we've been able to tap into with grants and funding. But we've expanded our cargo ramp. We've been able to add another container pond for fluids that drain off from the ramp space. We've been able to have upgrades with ramp taxiways, runways. We're looking at a lot of key projects in the future. One of those is looking at a design right now that we're working on for the main boulevard and Port Lansing Road to upgrade those to a Class A road system to support the increase of potential activity, whether it be with UPS or any other carriers that may have some interest on the cargo side, but also some land development and making sure that we're prepared to support any increase in traffic. But then we're also working on a design for our terminal. We've got one of the oldest passenger terminals in the state of Michigan, and we need to take steps to make sure that we're planning for the future and putting those pieces that are necessary to support the infrastructure along the way. So we'll be working on some of that design as we get kicked off third quarter this year.
Well, and not only the physical facility, but also the design of who's coming in next. And you just recently picked up, actually, I would say in the last 24 months, you picked up two airlines.
Yeah, yeah, we have two new airlines. They're low-cost carrier services that started up actually in the middle of the pandemic with great leadership. We're talking about leaders that helped to start up JetBlue, leaders that helped to start up Allegiant Airlines. So, some great names that are there supporting both Avello as well as Breeze Airways. So, the most recent one is the Breeze announcement. They have cabin service in their aircraft. It's almost broken up into like three services. So, like a first, a business, a coach type services. So, and it's low cost and it's going nonstop from Lansing to Orlando and into Fort Myers. So, we're really excited about that new partnership. It starts October 2nd. And then we'll have more details with Avello and what their next destination is going to be for the Lansing market, which will probably start fourth quarter of this next year. And soon we'll have Apple Vacations will be making some announcements about their next season, which will start in January of 25. And of course, our main carrier, our legacy carriers, you know, the Delta expansion for additional services to Detroit, making that easy connection. People in the mid-Michigan region, check Lansing first, look at the fare options and the connectivity. And then, of course, the American Airlines service with nonstops to Washington, D.C., such a key piece for the state capital, but also our Chicago O'Hare service. So we've got some great things going.
You have had some great things going, and now you've got more great.
But we've got such a great team and a great community support like yourself, and it's been pretty exciting that we're able to all kind of work together and focus on how do we move forward with the next step.
Well, you've made the airport an economic driver again, and we appreciate that. Noel Williams, who is the CEO of the Capital Region International Airport, and we're coming to you from the big house, actually, isn't it? But the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And we're here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman, and we are coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, and the annual policy conference that's put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. And we have with us a returning guest, right? Okay, we're going to check the progress of what we're going to do. Erin Skeen Pratt, and she's the executive director of Michigan After School partnership. So let's re-explain to everybody what that is.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So, we are a network of after school programs across the state, and that means programs that serve kiddos before school, after school, as well as summer. And so, we work to provide them with advocacy support as well as helping to improve the quality of their programs.
Now, I would suspect that it's all in conjunction with the school system, and you're using their facilities for the most.
Some do. A lot of programs are located at schools. Some are located at nonprofit organizations. Some are at parks and recreation departments. Some are even at libraries.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what's the mission here? I mean, I know it's to watch kiddos, right, and make sure they grow up with the right ideas, etc.
Yeah, after school has so many benefits for kids. It absolutely is in terms of their academics. We know kids that go through these programs are more likely to do better in math, science, and reading. They have great emotional skills, those soft skills, 21st century skills that they need for jobs. It's also a great childcare provider for younger youth. We're here talking a lot about, how do you retain business? How do you retain talent here in the state? And one of the best ways to recruit and retain talent is to make sure that there's care for their kids so that they can actually work. And then programs are also offering a lot of workforce development support. So, a lot of times we focus on when we're looking at, how do we get more vet techs? How do we get more folks to work in engineering, in STEAM, etc. And we focus on them doing that during the school day. But there's a lot of opportunity with out of school time programs, particularly with middle school and high school students, to be able to have those workforce development opportunities and career exploration with them at that time too.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I mean, we do a thing in Lansing and it's called T3 and it's a career quest. So we have all these people in one room, all these employers, 54 of them, and then we loosen 3,000 students to go look at all these possible careers. Because most of these kids, they don't talk career at their family tables. And some of them don't have family tables.
Yeah. And that's what's so great about the after school programs is that, it can complement, right, what's happening at home. It can complement, excuse me, what's happening in the schools and really allow for that extra time because especially with the school system, right, they're so focused, right, on what they have to cover during the day that then with these after school programs, you have a little more flexibility, right, to do more of these career exploration opportunities.
Now, how do you select the communities that you're going to go into?
We actually are statewide, and so we're the kind of the association network for everybody. But then we advocate for state funds that support programs, and then the state goes through a competitive grant process and then determines how they're going to fund the programs. But it usually is and dictated by the state in terms of it does have to be statewide, but then it also has to prioritize areas most in need.
All right. So last year when we first brought this up, you were still in the mobility stage. You were growing. How's it gone?
It's been a great year. We've been really fortunate in terms of growth as an organization ourselves. We've gone from just a couple staff to about 10 staff, which is fantastic, right, in terms of capacity. But then we've also grown in terms of, more importantly, with the partners that we have, a lot of philanthropic partners, business partners, school partners, all champions, right, for after school. And then the state continues to show its interest and desire to invest, right, in after school. So it was 50 million this past year, and this year it's 50 million again with the governor's budget, and then the House is at 75 million, and the Senate's at about 69 million. So we're really hopeful that these programs that provide such critical care to youth across the state will be able to have that funding.
So I'm picking up that from all your smiling, your funding is pretty solid right now.
I hope so. It's always, when you deal with legislation, right? And you're dealing with the state budget, it's always up until the last minute. Wanting to make sure that you're on the radar screen and that, it's so important. But, we're really fortunate that we have so many legislative champions who realize the, importance of these out of school time and after school programs because of the academic support, because of the tie for workforce development, and because of the mental health pieces as well. I mean, you look at all the priorities that the legislature has and the priorities that the governor has, right? You can basically kind of tick it off and say, yes, after school meets all of those priorities.
Well, it's an amazing program, and it is an absolute necessity from a couple of perspectives. The influence on the kid is just awesome, but also there are a lot of working parents, and one of the biggest problems right now in that workforce is childcare.
Absolutely. And childcare, a lot of times we think about it, right, with the younger kiddos. But, once they're in kindergarten, once they're school age, right, you
Yeah.
still need that care. And, no matter what community you're in, there is a shortage of that care available to you. It's very frustrating, right? And, you have a couple days in the spring where everyone is furiously trying to get their kiddos signed up, right, for summer programming. And there's wait lists galore, right? And those are the families who can afford it, right? And there are a lot of families who can't afford it. And that's really why a lot of this funding is so important to make sure that the families that really need this care can get it.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're filling a void. Aaron Skeen Pratt, thanks so much for joining us, Executive Director of the Michigan After School Partnership. Keep up the good work. We need you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm Chris Holman, and you're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network, and we're coming to you today from the Grand Hotel. We're here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the elegant Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And we're here because the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference here. And JD Collins joins us right now, head of SBDC, and it's good to have you here, buddy.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
And this is a perfect spot for you, right? Because you got to advocate for what you do, you got to make sure you're in budgets, and then you got to kind of proliferate your story.
You nailed it. It is the perfect place for the SBDC because we're this blend between helping out the entrepreneurs and small businesses as we do every day, but we're also supported by the state and federal government. And so having all of these people in the same place is really a gift to be able to speak with each one of them every day.
You know, it's kind of interesting because I always make a joke that when we look at what are the biggest fences that small business has to jump over, one is always regulation.
Mhm.
And navigating that is getting more difficult every year.
Mhm.
And tell people about the SBDC and how they can come in and get that navigation, and in most cases, free of charge.
Yeah. So I think you bring up a great point. All of our services are free to the consumer. So think about it. A small business entrepreneur comes to us. We're never going to charge them for our services. We're able to do that because we are funded by the state, the feds, and our university hosts. You talked about regulation, and this is where we come into play because we are experts in this space. We can help entrepreneurs and small businesses navigate those, we'll call those waters, but on the flip side of that, we're also advocating for entrepreneurs and small businesses through a coalition of micro businesses. And this coalition is really looking at, affecting policy to make it easier to start and grow your business in Michigan as well.
Right, which used to be a pretty high bar and seems to be getting a little easier, but it's nice to have someone. It's nice to have a tour guide, I guess, is the way to put it.
That's a really good way to put it. We have a number of consultants. We have about 100 consultants throughout the state. So whatever county you're in, we're there to help. But these are experts who have all done it before. And I'd like to say it this way. We typically have someone who can help your small business get started. But if we aren't the right team for you, we have relationships with others within the network that
Yeah.
will be able to help you.
Yeah. This volunteer situation and the experts that come in, this is a crucial piece because these are people that live in the community in which these entrepreneurs are, in many cases, people who have entrepreneurial aspirations
You bet.
when they come in.
You bet. And so the SBDC model, I'd like to consider it a best practice here in Michigan. We employ our consultants in the communities that they serve, and so they're distributed throughout the state. And so we really feel like having that local flair and that local knowledge is key. Certain communities value, the community in which you live, and we want to make sure that we support those entrepreneurs the way they want to be supported.
JD, when they come in your office and they're looking for they got an idea, right, about running a business, and they've got this great product that everybody's going to knock down the door for. What is their aha moment? I mean, I look back on when I started, kind of stepped off the end of the dock, and I'm like, ooh, hey, I wish I'd have known that.
Right. Yeah. So that you ask a really good question because inevitably most entrepreneurs believe that they need financial support. They need capital in order to start. And when we ask the question about, do you have a business plan? Do you have a growth plan? What is your loan plan? That's typically where we start.
Yeah.
And so that's the start line before we go and ask for capital. And we help those entrepreneurs become loan ready. And so that they have a solid understanding of what their business financials are going to look like and what their plan is to grow once they start.
That's so funny you say that because there was a time when the biggest issue for business was a lack of capital.
Mhm.
And I can remember saying to some people that I consulted, I don't think I'd loan you money. So don't feel bad about your rejection at the bank, but it's because they're not prepped.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So there's another component to what we do every day, and that is holding the entrepreneur accountable.
Mhm.
A lot of times, this is an entrepreneur's first venture outside of a corporate environment where they had maybe a boss holding them accountable. Now that they're out on their own, they really need kind of a buddy in the process, and a lot of times we're just there for emotional support, holding them accountable, and helping them meet their deadlines.
Well, it's it. I've always said every business needs a mother, and that's just about it. It's like, well, what you do today? We told you what you're supposed to do. Did you get it done? And That's what a lot of businesses fail on. So how many offices throughout the state do you have?
So we have 10 main offices throughout the state. That helps us cover the regions. So if you know the regions of prosperity, we're in all of the 10 regions of prosperity. But we're aligned in each one of those regions to a university or host institution. And so in the Upper Peninsula, it's MTU. Down in the Detroit area, it's EMU. On the west side of the state, it's GVSU. And that's where we also have our corporate offices and then more universities to support the
It's
rest of the state.
interesting. EMU is the first one that I came in contact.
Oh,
That's
no
when I
kidding.
first learned about your organization. Charlie, I'm trying to remember his name, who ran it down there
So it
for.
might have been Charlie Penner,
It
who
was
was
Charlie Penner. Who's
Charlie
that?
Penner with he was also with the Washtenaw team as well. And
Right.
so out of Washtenaw Community College, we have another support team out of there.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And remember, this is really crucial. The other thing you'll get is if you have an idea for a business and you walk in and it's a bad idea, it's best to know about that.
hmm there's a flip side to this too, is we help entrepreneurs unwind gracefully out of their business if they need to.
Yeah.
Because what we understand is a lot of entrepreneurs are serial entrepreneurs, and if we help them unwind gracefully, that makes them stronger to come back for their next idea. And so,
And they don't affect other people negatively. I mean, if you
right,
go out and you hire a bunch of people to a failing business, that's got real bad ramifications.
you got it.
JD, thanks for joining us. JD Collins is the head of the SBDC for the state of Michigan. And we are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has its annual policy conference. I'm Chris Holman, and you're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel because this is where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce chooses to have their annual policy conference. And what a conference this has been! And you are here just full of adrenaline.
Of
Tom Kelly,
course.
Tom Kelly, the CEO of Automation Alley. You had a great announcement out here.
Oh my gosh. So we had the governor, the lieutenant governor, we had Dave Coulter, Mark Hackle, and Assad Turvey filling in for Warren Evans. Big announcement. We have all agreed to take Project Diamond from an Oakland County and a little bit of Macomb County initiative where we have 300 small manufacturers on the network to Wayne County, more of Macomb, and then statewide eventually. So the governor was announcing her support for this program. And, you know, Chris, you and I have been talking about Project Diamond a long time.
Yes,
And we've been building this steam, this head of steam. And what a great day for Michigan that we're going to take this statewide because we're coming. Small manufacturers all around the state are going to be able to participate in this program. Huge day for
So,
Michigan.
so let's talk about the program. Explain to everybody what.
Yeah. So Project Diamond is a program where we buy and distribute production capable printers. These are printers that can make products you can actually sell to
3D
customers.
printers. We're talking about
3D printers for manufacturers because they need to understand this next wave of digitization. They need to understand all about additive. And we take that objection away. We say, listen, we'll give you the printer, but you got to be a part of the network now so that you print for others as well. So think about if I'm a great big manufacturer with a great big capital structure, I can make 10,000 things a month because I've invested in that. If I had 10,000 small manufacturers in the state of Michigan, which is about what we have, all making one thing, I can make 10,000 things at a time too. That's the gist of the program that says I don't need to build my own capital structure to be in manufacturing. I can use your assets when you're not using them. That's the beauty.
Well, and it puts you on a more even keel with the major manufacturers where you can do that. I read a
Yeah.
book 100 years ago called Customize Manufacturing.
Yeah, mass
And
customization.
it was mass customization.
And that's where we're headed. I like to create the analogy. It says, remember when you and I were young, you could get coffee or with cream or sugar. That was it.
That was it.
And now Starbucks says you can get millions of combinations and permutations, but that coffee doesn't cost $1 anymore. It costs $5.
Yeah.
That's the mass customization. So the appeal is there. People want that and they're willing to pay for it. That's where we're going with all of manufacturing. People want mass customization. GM's working on a Celestique. 300 parts are going to be additively printed. So when you get in that car, it's going to have your logo everywhere. It's going to have your feel, your colors, what you like. And that's going to be your car, Chris. And that's what we're going to do for all of manufacturing.
Yeah, and of course that goes back to when you could have any color you wanted car.
As long as it was black.
That's exactly right.
I'm sorry, was that your thunder?
No, it's okay. It's a shared thunder.
Yeah, there you go.
No, but having the endorsement, I think, of the governor
Yeah.
and the three
County executives.
county executives.
Oh my gosh.
That really heightens the profile of it. Who's going to orchestrate this? Who's going to coordinate?
Well, that's us. That's what
Aha.
Automation Alley does,
Ah.
right?
He's
We are the
responsible.
convener. Yeah, that's right. We are the convener. We are the ones that says we want everybody under the tent. So small manufacturers, they want to stay independent. And remember, Project Diamond, the definition of diamond is distributed, independent, agile manufacturing on demand.
Yeah.
We're not trying to take you out of the equation. You're an independent manufacturer. You keep the relationship with the customer. But sometimes you need help producing more, especially in an additive environment. You can use all your buddies on the network
Yeah.
and vice versa. They can now use your assets. What it does is it creates a natural collaboration. And that's not always true in manufacturing. Almost my whole career, manufacturing is I'm doing something. I can't share anything with you because it's mine. That's not how we're going to win against China. We all need to be rowing in the same direction and
Yeah.
using each other's skills and assets to raise all boats.
You know, that's so interesting. And you bring up China. As you know, I've done business
Yeah.
there 31 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have that capacity at this point, and they're entering into the auto market in the EV stage, and we got to do something.
Yeah, they're going to come in with very, very aggressive pricing for very sophisticated products. How we beat them is we have to mass customize.
Yeah.
Right? We have to make products of one for the customer that's coming in the door at that moment because you can't mass produce customization. That's how we're going to win.
Tom, I have to feel that this is going to cause these coalitions of, I'm helping you and you help me. They're all going to make their money on the order. they may wind up collaborating on other things. I mean,
Exactly.
there's relationships that'll build there.
You want that, right?
Yeah.
Because now if I have the capacity to make a bunch of stuff, I want to innovate as fast as possible because that innovation is money in my pocket.
Yeah.
I want to say, hey, I used to make it this way. I've innovated. I can now 3D print it this way. I'm going to push it out on the network and take my royalties, and you guys all make it, and vice versa. So one begets three, begets nine, begets 27. I don't know how to do the math past that, but that's what we want to do in Michigan.
I'm a little dizzy right now.
Right.
You know, I
I,
can
people told me there'd be no math in the internet. I created my own math.
you brought it.
I
No,
brought it.
this is interesting, and we're out of time, but I just want to make this statement. I can't tell you how many years ago it was, and you said, Chris Holman, come to our annual meeting. We're going to introduce 4.0.
Yeah, right.
Look how
Right.
far this
Look
has
where
come.
we've come.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Tom Kelly, the CEO of Automation Alley, and we are coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, where we're broadcasting from the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. I'm Chris Holman, and you're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, and that's because the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference here. And of course, policy and I guess the auto industry, the mobility industry, I mean, that's top of mind, right? Jose Flores is with us right now from Anchor Automotive. Tell us about Anchor Automotive.
Micro Automotive, Grace, is the data management software for the automotive sector that also does manufacturing. So we do all the labels for the cars, but also we with everything that is going on and the electric revolution on the cars, we also pivot our company to be more software-defined vehicle company.
Okay, so you're on the IT end of all this, right?
Yes, and it's a very interesting time to be transitioning because, as I said, 40-year-old traditional manufacturing company moving into a software-defined vehicle arena with blockchain technology, AI. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and we're adapting to a situation that put us in kind of a negative circumstance, as a matter of fact. So, how long have you been around, and how's your progress been?
I've been around with Anchor Automotive for the last 2 years. We opened our innovation hub, as you know, last year in May, and our progress it has been great. We have a full innovation team dedicated just to create ideas and solve the challenges and pain points that the auto manufacturers and the EV startups are coming up with. We came up with the Batman, the battery management system. So that's previously called Battery Passport, as we discussed. That's done. It's very impressive because right now you track from cradle to grave all the supply chain of the battery to the recycling point. And right now with the regulations that are coming, and that's why we're here, politicians, government, and business guys to see where we're going. With the regulations that are coming on 2025, someone needs to make sure that the batteries are compliant, recycle 13% recycled cobalt, green mining, no child labor. There's a lot of regulations. So the Batman basically tracks along the supply chain every single step, creates a block through blockchain technology,
Make sure you're in compliance.
make sure you're in compliance, and creates a digital twin that also for the used car business, if you're in like shopping for used cars, you want to make sure that your battery is safe because the battery is embedded to the chassis of the car in most of the electrical vehicles. So
So you guys have had growth. You're making money, I'm presuming.
we're trying, yeah.
Oh, this is important. I mean, it's because a lot of companies, especially on the IT end, don't make money for several years, but they're growing like crazy, which means they're going to. And I would presume you're kind of in that circle.
Yeah, we're definitely betting on the software arena. We have Anchor Manufacturing that it's a huge supporter. And we know that our software solutions are going to be something that will change and redefine the software defined vehicle arena, definitely.
Yeah, it's a super growth and a super story, as a matter of fact. So, are you an IT guy? Is that what you were trained in? Is that what?
So my major is business and IT engineering.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a business guy that happens to be an engineer that happens to know how to code as well.
Well, no, it's a perfect background, right?
It's a very interesting background. I started as an industrial engineering and then I saw that and I'm like, I think that's more me. I tend more towards the business side, but also critically important as well. I understand the IT side. I understand the code. I know how to do it. I understand the structure.
Well, and I would say you're like it's like painting a bridge because things change so much in your industry. Companies don't have you come in, fix something, and get out. You're going to stay.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's right. And you just said it like things are moving so fast and everyone is trying to figure it out on this EV race that I call that you need to be able to have a company that is strong enough but lean enough as well that can adapt and pivot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and technology is making us capable of being more lean and get things done. Tell me a little bit about your personal background, where you're from, how you gravitated to this.
So I'm from Monterrey, Mexico. I came to Detroit 8 years ago. I have always been very passionate about the automotive industry. I'm a huge car fan. Uh, the Mustang is my favorite car. So, you know, uh,
Huge endorsement.
yeah, no, yeah. So huge car fan. I came 8 years ago to the automation business, which is a very, very difficult business because you're doing assembly lines for the tier one companies.
Yeah.
You're creating like assembly with robots, programming everything, and I was very passionate about it. And then I decided to take a leap of faith and acquire a company that happened to be a traditional company and flip it into a software company.
Wow. So your degrees are from Mexico.
My degree is from Mexico. I'm currently doing my executive master's at Michigan State. So I need to go back actually tomorrow. I have classes, go green. So
Go white.
there you go. So yeah, my title is from Mexico and right now MSU.
Well, I have to tell you, you are a great example, honestly, of what we need to do with that border down there, for one thing, and get the talent that we need to come in. So,
Yeah. And I think that's it. You just nailed it there. I think that's the whole topic about the conference is bridging the future together. How politicians, business persons, we get together and we just don't talk about it. We make it happen. How do we make it happen?
yeah, that's important. Jose Flores, Anchor Automotive. Thanks for what you're doing, bud, and thanks for coming here. We
Thanks
look
for
forward
having
to
me
it.
again, Chris.
All right. Well, you'll be back next year. All
There you
right.
go.
All right. Chris Holman, you're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network, which is coming to you from the Grand Hotel and the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. We'll be back with more. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we are coming to you from the Big Island in northern Michigan, of course, and we're on the Grand Hotel, and we are here because this is where the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce chooses to have their annual policy conference. And what's in the middle of policy more than the damn roads, for God's sakes? Zach Culloden, thanks so much for joining us. Zach is actually the chief infrastructure officer. Zach, that covers a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So let's talk about that. What is your job?
So this job was created for the special reason of pursuing federal dollars and winning them and deploying them toward the infrastructure priorities that we all share. Fixing our roads, fixing our water systems, getting clean water coming out of the tap, building the foundations of a resilient energy system that can transition to clean energy, and
Probably bridges in there too. I would think.
bridges, absolutely, rail, transit, and connecting every Michigander to high-speed internet.
Okay, so this is a quick little story. Gretchen called me, and I was on her first kitchen cabinet,
Oh.
and she said, "What can I do for small business?" And I said, "Number one is get them high speed internet throughout the state, because you exclude a lot of people when you don't have that connectivity." How's that going?
It's going great. So we have two major sources of funding for high-speed internet connection, both of which on their own would be unprecedented investments. One of them is called the Robin program, and the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office is getting those dollars out the door today, right? They are finalizing the contract, signing on the dotted line so that folks can get out in the field and connect people to the internet. And that's more than $250 million in investment all across this great state. Second, we've got this opportunity from the bipartisan infrastructure law, and that's a $1.6 billion investment in Michigan's broadband infrastructure from what's called the BEAD program, or Broadband Equity Access and Deployment. And it's a mouthful.
Acronyms.
I know, right? And that money will ultimately flow out the door next year. The High Speed Internet Office has been working closely with their counterparts at the feds to make sure our maps are exactly right, and we're connecting just the households that need access to the internet, so that we can get those dollars out the door as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Well, okay, so redistribution, make sure it goes in the right spot, get the best deal, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about the roads for a second, because we had Glenn Stevens on from Mish Auto, and a number of other people about mobility industry. So are we building the roads now with tomorrow's traffic in mind? And I say that because we're moving more to EV, and we'll probably move more there when there's more charging stations. Is there things that need to be built into the roads to prepare for that?
That's a great question. I would reframe it slightly. Not only to are we rebuilding our roads with tomorrow's traffic in mind, but with tomorrow's people in mind, tomorrow's mobility patterns. People of this generation, the Zoom generation, if you will, they move differently than previous generations do. They're deciding where to live based on what access to mobility they have.
Public transportation.
Public transportation in some cases, or walkable communities. And so we do need to build transportation infrastructure that facilitates those kinds of ways of life. So yes, we are rebuilding roads and bridges all across the state with the Rebuilding Michigan program and the entire transportation plan. We've done more than 25,000 lane miles of road during this administration, and we are making the highways a safer place where people can more reliably get where they're going and not break their axle or crack their windshield, whatever the case may be. Those kinds of stories that used to be so common on Michigan's highways. But we do need to think carefully about how we invest in the hearts of our communities to enable people to feel connected, and enable people to feel like they can, go to a local business. They can get from their house to where they want to go using multiple modes of transportation, whether that's a bike or their legs or a car.
I'm knocked out at the lower percentage of kids who are getting their driver's license.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, and it is no surprise that as people think about how to save for the future, how to build a home, build a family wherever they live, that at least when they're young, they want to think about maybe I go with one car, maybe I go with zero cars. And in order to enable them to move to our communities, we need to provide them with options uh, for other ways to get around. So to your earlier question on EVs, we are thinking very carefully about how to have a statewide EV network. We are installing fast EV chargers, the kind of EV chargers where you plug in and you're done charging your car in 15 minutes all across the state.
Oh,
Right?
that changes the industry.
Changes the industry. It changes long distance road travel for EV users. And that program, we hope to see the first stations open up this year, funded by the bipartisan infrastructure law funding. And that's a statewide network. Now, what's next after that? What I think of as kind of the missing middle. Community charging, in our arts districts, or charging at multifamily housing, charging in parking garages. Basically, where do people leave their car for like an hour or two where they can get a big boost and, not have to worry about, uh, you know, ever having to fast charge. And this is a big improvement for drivers. If you don't have to go to the gas station, that's a nice thing.
That's what I've heard. All right. Zach Glutton, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Yeah, and Chief Infrastructure for the state of Michigan. I have no doubt after this interview that it's in the right hands.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Good job. Thanks for being with us. We are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, where the Greater Detroit Chamber of Commerce is actually having their annual policy conference. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And we are up here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. And we have with us the Vice President, Simon Whitelock. He is with ITC Holdings and also President of ITC Michigan. You know, I know you folks. I don't know that everyone knows you folks. So uh, let's talk a little bit about what ITC is.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of
Great
all.
to have you.
Yeah, this is great. So ITC, we own and operate the high voltage grid in the Lower Peninsula here in Michigan. So the grid meaning the big wires and towers that you might see driving down the road that move power from where it's generated to where it's actually consumed. So
I have to feel in the grand scheme of things, that's like kind of saying, you live here and you need to go there. I own the car, right?
we own the road. We
Okay.
own the highway. If you use roads as an analogy, we own the interstate system.
Okay. And you've been around a while.
We have. We got it started back in 2003 when DTE sold off this portion of the business to ITC, and that's how we got our start. We're headquartered in Novi, Michigan, and we have about 800 employees, most of whom are located in Michigan, but we are also elsewhere in the Midwest.
Okay, so I didn't know so much about outside of here. What other
Yeah.
states are you in?
So we are in 8 states, but primarily Michigan, Iowa, Minnesota, Kansas, Oklahoma. That's where our
Okay,
primary
really
operations
kind
are.
of
Yeah.
a circumference here,
Yeah. Midwest.
distribution
Mhm.
center. So just a little off note, I graduated from Northville High School, and when I was in high school, there was no Novi High School. Okay, so that's how much that area has changed.
Just yesterday. Yeah.
Yes,
So our
it was a
our
while.
headquarters is right there
It was a
in Novi.
few days ago. All right, how did you gravitate to this position?
Interesting. I've worked at the company now for 21 years.
Oh, okay.
And I did not set out to work in the energy business, but I think like most of us, our careers have taken twists and turns.
Who winds up doing what they were trained for? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
But I am a CPA by training. That's how
Oh,
I started my career, working in CPA firms. And then I went back and did my MBA, and then I got a job working at a utility, and then I came over to ITC shortly after that, and been here since.
so you've been kind of there since they were acquired,
Pretty close,
really.
yeah. Just a
Yeah,
couple months after the company started,
yeah.
I started, and it's been great, great company, great culture, great group of people. We've done some great things. Feel really good about the impact that we've had on the grid.
All right, so enough softball. How safe is our grid?
Our grid is in very good shape. It's from well, I think of safety primarily like personal safety, and then I think of it from a cybersecurity
Right.
safety perspective, and I think sort of the general public reliability. And I think here in Michigan and our whole footprint, I mean, we've done a lot of work over the last 20 years. I think we've invested over $7 billion in the grid here in Michigan
Oh,
to
wow.
improve reliability, increase capacity, get the grid ready for where we are today. We are seeing major changes coming at us in terms of how energy is generated.
Yeah.
So we have to account for that. We have to interconnect new renewables on the system. And right now, we're also seeing a huge amount of economic development activity that we've got to work to connect these new customers, get them up and running as fast as possible. So there's a lot of stuff happening in our world right now.
Well, I
And
would think so. Because when you look at, usually what we're asking companies is like, okay, where's your next move? How are you going to expand? I would say you're probably going to expand a lot within your present footprint.
we are, yes, there's a tremendous amount of growth. So we've got just taking care of the day-to-day sort of bread and butter stuff, but then we also have new projects that we're building. We have a new project that runs sort of right through the middle of the state from mid-Michigan down to the Indiana border. That project is underway. We're going to work on that for the next few years. We
So
may have,
that's moving power to those areas.
yes, it just creates another, think of it like adding another highway to
Yeah.
the to the infrastructure. First time since the early 80s that we'll be building a new connection from the lower peninsula of Michigan to outside of the state. So this is a pretty big deal for us. And we have other similar projects coming at us too. So it's an exciting time to be in the business, and on top of all of that, we have Mother Nature. We have the bad guys are trying to do the cybersecurity thing. You know,
It's an ongoing, isn't it?
it is
It's
a
like
never
painting a
ending.
bridge.
It is, yes, and that's how we've approached it, and we've done well at it.
Yeah, well, excellent. Because everybody worries about that. What if the Russians come and they close us down or whatever? So it's good to know we're in good stead in that regard. So future plans for you? I mean, are you going to own the company someday? Or? Oh, whoa,
No,
oh, this may go out on the air.
I no, I've had a wonderful career at ITC, and I worked with some great people, and I think when I first started in at the company, I thought, well, we'll get this place up and running,
Tried a
but I
few
don't know what I'm going to
years.
do for after that. That's
Yeah,
2 years, and
yeah.
it's been 21, and there's no end in sight in terms of exciting things coming at us. So it's been great.
Well, that's the part. It's like probably every one of your days looks different.
It does,
Yeah.
and I really enjoy the job. I really enjoy the industry, and as I said before, I didn't think I was going to get into this, but since I have, it's been wonderful.
Well, it's good to have you on, and I feel much more secure now about turning my lights on.
Good.
All right,
Hope you
thanks.
don't have to think about it too much.
I appreciate
Then
it.
that means we're doing our
All
job.
right, it doesn't keep me up, but I do think about it. All
Good.
right, Simon Whitelax, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
President of ITC Michigan. We are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, which is where the Detroit Chamber of Commerce has their annual policy conference. I'm Chris Holman. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network, and we'll be back with more. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel as we attend here the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference, and the stuff that comes out of here is pretty incredible. Warren Call, you were down here from Traverse City, part of Traverse Connect. This is a Traverse City day. How did it wind up here?
It is. It's beautiful. It's great to have beautiful weather to enjoy Mackinac Island and of course the front porch of the Grand Hotel. And
I
you
bet.
know we'll take credit for well while all the business leaders are here in Northern Michigan with us, we'll take credit for the weather.
Well, come on, you just look at the weather patterns and flows. You send this weather here
That's
to
right. That's right.
Traverse City.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what is going on, Travis? You guys are poised now. This is your summer rush, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. It's a busy season. Obviously, we're starting now with once Memorial Day rolls in, we kick off and we're very busy. It's looking excellent. We've got, of course, great bookings. The tourism industry is looking very strong for this year. We have started to address some of the talent shortages that have really been an issue over the last couple of years. It's still there,
Yeah.
but it is getting better,
Oh,
and so
really?
things look strong. Yeah, we're some of that we're taking on our own. There's a number of people in the business community building their own housing, buying their own housing for their staff because that's what's needed. But we've also been we've seen a little bit better hiring the last couple of months, really.
No kidding.
Mhm.
You know what? I would have thought maybe being on the outreach of the Lower Peninsula, you might have had more of an issue there than anybody else. There are a lot of companies that have been relocated there
There are.
because the owners love being there.
Yes, they are. That's part of our economic development strategy, right? If you've got a business that can be run from anywhere,
Yeah.
Traverse City and Northern Michigan is not a bad place to do it. So we've had a lot of success in what I would call advanced companies, biopharmaceutical companies moving here from the West Coast or from
Yeah.
Madison, Wisconsin, professional service companies. Of course, anything that can be done remote. So that's been a great driver for us and allows us to continue to diversify our economy so that we, continue to have great tourism, great agriculture, but augment it with some of these other industries.
Well, yeah, I've always said that. At one time, you guys were the Cherry Festival, and then we closed up shop.
Right.
And you were tourism only. You have built a very vibrant, not only commercial,
Hmm.
with the downtown district, et cetera,
Yes.
but the industrial as well.
It is. We're excited about a partnership that we've just formed this year with the Grand Traverse Area Manufacturing Council to better support what they're doing. A lot of people don't realize, but advanced manufacturing plays a huge role in the Traverse City area, and it actually we employ more people in manufacturing than the state average in our area.
Wow.
People don't realize that. They think of Traverse City with beaches and pie, but we've got advanced manufacturing, significant companies that ship things all over the world. So we're excited about that partnership. We're able to better support what they're doing. We just hosted on May 1st the Northern Michigan Manufacturing Summit. Record attendance, had obviously a great turnout from our local manufacturers, but also a lot of manufacturing leaders from across the state and across the country here, seeing what we're working on.
Yeah, unbelievable. You guys have done a great job. So what are your challenges there
Yeah.
at the
Well, housing continues to be an issue as always. Talent in general for our companies continues to be an issue, but we are addressing that on a number of things. We just had a ribbon cutting for a new MISTA supported housing project in Traverse City.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, great mixed kind of mixed income housing development that includes low income housing. It includes some housing for our Coast Guard. We have Air Station in Traverse City,
You do.
and we need housing for those people so they can keep the Great Lakes safe. So we're excited about that ribbon cutting that we just did last week for that project. So we continue to work on housing. We continue to work with our state partners on our talent attraction efforts. It's great to have Pure Michigan attracting visitors. We need to do an equally good job attracting talent to this region and to the whole state. So that's a key focus for us as we try to tell the story of the quality of life you can have in Northern Michigan, but also the quality of career you can have.
Yeah.
So telling that story.
Well, I was going to say you probably led the nation in placemaking. I mean, it's such a wonderful place to exist. I have to feel that you've got a lot of that work done.
We do have a lot of that work done, but we have a lot of work to do, right? Northern Michigan is one of the growing places in the state. It's a bright spot for the state. In fact, our core working age population, which is a number we really focus on, that kind of 30 and 40-year-old,
Right.
um, we've grown that population by 7% since 2020.
Wow.
So we want to continue that, and it takes a lot of effort. It takes job creation, it takes economic development, it takes talent attraction, it takes housing, but that's a key driver. we're growing, but we want to be able to grow the working age population as well as continue to, be a great spot for people that are retired as well.
Well, it is a great spot. You've had a lot to do with making it that way. What anything in the future we can look for?
Yeah, one of the things that we're really excited about is the combination of outdoor recreation and technology and manufacturing when you put all those together. Think about the fact that our region makes things well. We also are a pretty nice place to test boats, off-road vehicles, and other outdoor recreation technology. So bringing that together. In fact, next week we have a summit focused on outdoor recreation technology and innovation with some state level leaders talking about how we can continue to further that. That'll create year-round jobs and also enjoy, people can activities
Yeah.
in northern Michigan. And then in August we are going to host the second e-boat demo day in Elk Rapids. Last year was the first one in North America.
Wow.
Got national level press for it, so we're excited to be able to do that again.
Al, you've always got stuff going there. And Warren Call, head of Traverse Connect, thanks so much for spending time with us because I know how busy you are.
My pleasure, Chris. Always great to join you.
It's good to have you here, bud. You are watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I am Chris Holman, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel and the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here. And we are at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And we're here for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. And I would tell you at the base of this, education is one of those things we look at all over. And so Jack Elsley is with us. And Jack, I'm going to read this so I don't get it wrong. So, yeah, Michigan Educator Workforce Initiative supporting the Talent Together initiative. You must have the biggest business card in the Western Hemisphere.
Pretty long.
Yeah.
Downsize.
Could you streamline this for me a little bit? Who are?
So, the Michigan Educator Workforce Initiative was created in 2022 to address one of Michigan's most significant needs, which is the educator workforce. For the last decade or so, we've had one of the biggest teacher shortages in the country. We had a 66% drop in enrollment in traditional education schools, for instance, over that period of time, and a pretty high attrition rate from those programs. And so we were launched a couple of years ago to work closely with district leaders and superintendents and schools all around the state to attract and retain teachers and educators all across the state and try to meet that need. And one of the programs that we founded in partnership with 56 intermediate school districts across the state was this program called Talent Together, which has quickly become one of the largest grow your own programs in the country.
Wow. Okay, so a couple things. First of all, we have not only a shortage, but we have a shortage of paying people who are in one of the most difficult industries there is, which is education. We're still at the lower end of compensation for teachers in the United States. And the second is, I've always said this, it's the way we compensate. There's no one as overpaid as a bad teacher or as underpaid as a good one. Um, Anything along those lines that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, we think compensation is an enormous part of the equation. Obviously, when you look at, there was a recent report issued by Epic, the research outfit that does education research at Michigan State University, and they said essentially, if teachers were getting paid now what they were getting paid in the 1990s, they'd be making an average of $90,000 a year. They're making an average of $60,000 a year currently across the state. So, from a sheer buying power perspective, we're not showing our teachers really what we owe them or what we, how we value them. Um, what we're also working on, though, are ways to make the teaching profession more viable, to make it seem like that sort of 30-year career that maybe it once was, again, for the next generation of teachers. One of the interesting things we've launched, in addition to Talent Together, is thinking about how to redesign the teacher role altogether. What would it look like, for instance, if you had, instead of 30 kids for every teacher, you had 150 kids for 5 teachers, and they worked together as a team and they grouped kids differently and they got to live into their expertise as an excellent, reading teacher or an excellent math teacher and work with all of the kids. And what we found from districts that have done this, for instance, in Arizona, is the teachers are staying longer. They don't require substitute teachers. Students are performing better, parents are happier, and the teachers themselves are happier. The districts report that the teachers require fewer mental health supports in the instances where they're team teaching because they feel more fulfilled. They feel part of a community. So certainly compensation is important, but there are other elements that we're hoping to bring to the table to address that.
No, you're absolutely right. And if you can track it in success of the student, that is a huge thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So how are you guys funded?
We are funded mostly from state funding. The legislature allocated funding both for the Michigan Educator Workforce Initiative last July and also Talent Together. And we're hoping to continue that support from the state going forward. We also have some additional outside funding from some major national education funders.
Okay. So next steps, where are you going now?
Well, we're gonna expand Talent Together, so we're really excited. We had last spring for the first cohort, we had 1,500 applicants. We accepted about 900 folks who were in pathways all across the state to become teachers. This year, we had 2,700 applications, and we accepted around 550 folks. But we're hoping with additional legislative funding, we're hoping that we can take a lot more folks off the waiting list and make sure more kids have a great teacher in front of them every day.
Well, I'll tell you what, this teacher shortage scares me, and I have to say, we still we still have to find a way, and maybe it's this team approach to incentivize good teachers be good teachers and not have to look across the pay scale and say, well, the guy who runs a movie every day is making the same amount of money.
Well, I'll tell you one of the elements. There's a cycle right now in the midst of the teacher shortage where we find folks who have bachelor's degrees and we put them into classrooms without a whole lot of training or support. And of course that happens because there is such an urgent need. But part of what Talent Together is bringing to the table is a registered apprenticeship component. Every one of our participants does a full year under a mentor teacher before they get their own classroom. So they get a real year-long experience in a classroom. They know from a and guidance from a teacher who has been doing this for years and can show them the ropes, so that when they take on their classroom, they don't have to resort to some of the tactics new teachers resort to, and they feel successful.
Get me through one more day.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Jack Elsley, I love what you're doing. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. And Jack, of course, is the founder of the Michigan Educator Workforce Initiative, supporting the Talent Together initiative. Thanks for being with us, bud.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We are coming to you from the Grand Hotel, where we are attending the Greater Detroit Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. I'm Chris Holman. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network.